In any relationship, whether romantic, familial, or professional, the foundation of how we are treated begins with one essential truth. People learn how to treat us based on what we tolerate. This is where self-worth and emotional boundaries come in. Understanding your own value is not about arrogance or superiority. It's about acknowledging your inherent dignity and expecting to be treated accordingly. When we talk about walking away like a queen, we are not referring to drama or emotional grandstanding. Instead, it is a quiet, firm declaration that you know who you are and what you deserve. It is the result of deep self-awareness, personal growth, and emotional discipline. From an early age, many of us are conditioned to seek external approval. We are taught to be polite, to keep the peace, to avoid confrontation, and to always be accommodating. While these are not inherently bad traits, without a clear sense of self-worth, they can become dangerous. When we are unsure of our own value, we start to accept treatment that is far below what we deserve. We rationalize poor behavior, make excuses for emotional neglect, and invest time and energy into relationships that drain rather than nourish us. Self-worth acts as the internal compass that keeps us grounded. It reminds us that being treated with respect, kindness, and consideration is not a luxury. It's a basic expectation. Emotional boundaries are the natural extension of self-worth. They are not about building walls or shutting people out, but rather about clearly defining what is acceptable and what is not. They protect our mental and emotional space. A person who has healthy emotional boundaries does not allow guilt, manipulation, or fear to dictate their actions. They communicate clearly, assertively, and respectfully. They are able to say no without apology and yes without resentment. Walking away from a relationship that no longer serves you or that actively harms you becomes much easier when you are rooted in your own worth and guided by well-established boundaries. When you choose to walk away, you are not being cruel or dismissive. You are simply choosing not to participate in dynamics that devalue you. You are sending a clear message: I love myself enough to leave. This message does not need to be spoken. It is demonstrated through action. And that action can be transformative, not just for you, but for those around you. When someone sees that you are willing to walk away from something that is not aligned with your peace, it causes reflection. It creates space for accountability. It may even inspire others to examine their own behaviors and how they treat the people in their lives. However, this kind of strength does not come overnight. It requires internal work. It involves unlearning patterns of people pleasing, confronting our fears of abandonment, and dealing with the discomfort of being alone. It means learning to sit with our emotions instead of escaping them, to validate our own feelings without needing external approval. It means understanding that your worth is not tied to your relationship status, someone else's opinion, or your ability to fix or heal others. Your worth is intrinsic. It is not earned through sacrifice, overgiving, or suffering. It simply is. One of the most powerful lessons in life is realizing that you do not have to stay where love is inconsistent, conditional, or controlling. Healthy love, whether romantic or platonic, is mutual, respectful, and supportive. It uplifts rather than diminishes. It allows space for individuality rather than demanding conformity. If you find yourself constantly questioning your place in someone's life, constantly trying to prove your worth, or walking on eggshells to avoid conflict, these are signs that your boundaries may be compromised and your self-worth undervalued. Walking away like a queen means you do not need to slam the door or burn bridges. You leave with peace. You leave with your head high, your heart intact, and your soul unburdened. You do not allow someone else's inability to value you define your sense of self. Instead, you use the experience as fuel for growth. You recognize that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for the other person is to let go. The path to strong self-worth and firm emotional boundaries is a journey, not a destination. You will have moments of doubt. You may miss the people you walked away from. That's okay. Having compassion for yourself during those moments does not mean you made the wrong choice. It means you are human. The goal is not to be unfeeling or cold, but to love yourself enough to choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over temporary comfort. In the end, walking away like a queen is not about making someone else feel your absence as punishment. It's about reclaiming your presence. It's about standing fully in your power, rooted in self-respect, guided by clear boundaries, and surrounded by people who reflect and reciprocate your energy. When you hold yourself to that standard, the right people will rise to meet you, and the wrong ones will naturally fall away. That is the quiet, commanding strength of self-worth, and once you truly embrace it, you'll never settle for less again. There is a quiet power in absence that many people underestimate. We live in a world where visibility, presence, and constant engagement are often mistaken for strength. We are told to stay, to fight, to prove ourselves. But sometimes the most powerful and dignified action you can take is to remove yourself completely. The power of absence is not rooted in pride or manipulation. It is grounded in self-respect. It's a message that says, if you cannot appreciate my presence, then you will learn from my absence. And often this silent message is more impactful than any words could ever be. In relationships, especially romantic ones, many people believe that staying, even when things are unhealthy or unbalanced, is a sign of loyalty. They hold on, waiting for change, believing that love alone is enough to fix what is broken. But when your worth is consistently overlooked, when your efforts go unnoticed, and when your emotions are dismissed, staying does more harm than good. At some point, continuing to be present in a space that does not value you becomes a form of self-abandonment. You teach people how to treat you not just by what you allow, but by what you walk away from. When you walk away and create space between yourself and the person or situation that has failed to meet you with respect and appreciation, you initiate a powerful process. First, you reclaim your energy. You stop pouring into someone who is not reciprocating. You begin to pour that energy back into yourself, your healing, your growth, your peace. This act alone sends a strong signal. Your worth is not up for debate, and your love is not to be taken for granted. You are not punishing anyone, you are protecting yourself. That distinction is important. The power of absence is not a weapon, it's a boundary. What often happens when you leave is that the other person is forced to face what you brought to their life. Your support, your presence, your kindness, your consistency, those things may have been invisible while you were there, especially if they were taken for granted. But when you're gone, your absence creates a void. Suddenly, the things they overlooked become clear, the silence becomes loud, the space you once filled with your love, attention, and energy now speaks volumes. It forces reflection. It forces accountability. Whether or not that person chooses to change is not your responsibility, but what your absence does is spark awareness. This awareness is essential not only for others, but also for you. Absence allows you to step back and see things more clearly. While you are immersed in a relationship or situation, it's easy to ignore red flags, justify poor behavior, and lose perspective. But when you create distance, you begin to see things as they are, not as you hoped they would be. This clarity helps you rebuild your emotional foundation. It reminds you of your standards, your values, and your long-term well-being. It helps you separate love from attachment, effort from effectiveness, and loyalty from self-sacrifice. Another powerful aspect of absence is that it teaches detachment in a healthy way. Detachment does not mean you no longer care. It means you care enough about yourself to stop forcing connections that no longer serve you. It means you have the emotional maturity to accept that not every relationship is meant to last forever, and that's okay. Letting go is not failure, it's growth. It takes courage to step away, especially when your heart is still involved. But sometimes walking away is not giving up, it's choosing yourself. Absence also realigns your inner balance. When you are constantly trying to make a one-sided relationship work, you begin to lose pieces of yourself. You become anxious, exhausted, and emotionally drained. Your needs are silenced, your voice fades, but in absence, you begin to hear yourself again. You reconnect with your own thoughts, desires, and dreams. You realize that peace is more valuable than proximity, and that the right people will never require you to compromise your dignity just to stay close. It's important to remember that absence should not be used as a strategy to manipulate or control someone else's feelings. Its purpose is not to provoke guilt, but to create space for respect. If someone truly values you, they will feel the loss of your presence and respond with maturity. They will recognize the part they played and either take steps to rebuild the connection with honesty and effort, or respectfully let go. Either way, your absence helps bring truth to the surface. It removes the noise and distractions, allowing both sides to see what the relationship really was and what it wasn't. Lastly, the power of absence teaches you one of life's most profound lessons. You do not have to be present to be impactful. Sometimes your silence, your distance, and your self-preservation echo louder than anything you could say or do. When you honor your worth by stepping away, you make space for what truly aligns with your value. And when you learn to be at peace in your own company, the need for validation from others diminishes. In the end, walking away and letting someone feel your absence is not about teaching them a lesson. It's about teaching yourself a truth. You are enough with or without their approval. You do not have to prove your value by staying where you are not seen. Sometimes the most empowering thing you can do is quietly disappear and let your absence speak the words your heart was too tired to say. There is a profound strength in knowing when and how to leave a situation with grace. A dignified exit. It is not a moment of defeat. It is a conscious and intelligent act of emotional maturity. It demonstrates the ability to prioritize inner peace over ego, clarity over chaos, and long-term well-being over temporary emotion. Emotional intelligence is the foundation of a graceful exit. It's what enables someone to walk away without hostility, bitterness, or the need for dramatic closure. This kind of self-control and awareness is not only powerful, but it also sets the tone for how others perceive your departure and how they reflect on their own actions afterward. Emotional intelligence involves recognizing and managing your emotions in a way that is respectful to yourself and others. When relationships become toxic or emotionally draining, it's natural to feel hurt, angry, or betrayed. But how we respond to those emotions is what defines our character. Some people explode, others retaliate, and many stay longer than they should out of fear or guilt. However, someone with emotional intelligence takes a different path. They do not suppress or deny their emotions, but they also do not let those emotions control their behavior. They feel everything, but they act from a place of intention, not impulse. When you walk away like a queen, you are not storming out in a blaze of resentment. You are not trying to prove a point or make someone regret losing you. You are simply recognizing that the situation no longer serves your growth, your joy, or your sense of self. You leave with your head held high, not because you are unaffected, but because you choose dignity over drama. This kind of departure sends a powerful message, not just to the person you're walking away from, but to yourself. It says, I honor my peace more than I crave your apology. That is emotional strength at its highest level. A dignified exit. It also reflects an understanding that closure doesn't always come from another person. Often, we stay in unhealthy situations waiting for an apology, an explanation, or a change that never comes. We believe that without those things we can't move on. But emotional intelligence teaches us that closure is an internal process. It's the decision to accept what is, release what was, and trust what will be. It's the ability to give ourselves the peace we seek from others. This self-provided closure is what allows us to leave quietly, peacefully, and completely. Another important aspect of a graceful exit, it is the refusal to engage in blame or emotional warfare. When relationships deteriorate, it's easy to fall into cycles of accusation, defensiveness, or emotional manipulation. But someone who operates with emotional intelligence understands that blame only prolongs pain. They focus instead on accountability, acknowledging their own role in the situation, learning from it, and choosing to move forward without dragging others through unnecessary conflict. This approach fosters healing, not resentment. It allows both parties to part ways with a sense of respect, even if the relationship itself did not end on ideal terms. In walking away with grace, you also create space for self-reflection and personal development. You don't rush into distractions or rebound situations to fill the emptiness. You sit with your emotions even when they are uncomfortable. You examine your patterns, your choices, and your lessons. You take responsibility for your healing and your future. Emotional intelligence teaches you that pain is not something to be avoided. It is something to be processed, understood, and ultimately transformed into wisdom. When you leave a situation with dignity, you give yourself the gift of that transformation. It's also important to understand that a dignified exit, it is not just about walking away from others. It's also about walking back to yourself. It's a homecoming to your values, your boundaries, and your emotional equilibrium. You stop abandoning your needs to keep someone else comfortable. You stop silencing your truth to avoid conflict. You reclaim the parts of yourself that were lost in trying to maintain a connection that wasn't rooted in mutual respect. And in doing so, you reinforce your self-worth, not through words, but through action. This kind of emotional discipline is rare, and it is powerful. It leaves a lasting impression. While others may remember what you said or did, what they feel most is the way you carried yourself in moments of pain or disappointment. When you leave without causing harm, without seeking revenge, and without needing to be right, you leave behind a legacy of strength and self-respect. Your dignity becomes your message, and often that message lingers long after your presence is gone. Some people may interpret your quiet departure as indifference, but emotional intelligence knows the truth. It's not that you didn't care. It's that you cared enough to let go. You cared enough to protect your peace. You cared enough not to allow the situation to bring out a version of you that isn't aligned with your values. That is the highest form of self-respect. That is walking away like a queen. In a world that often glorifies confrontation, winning arguments, or making others feel guilty for their actions, there is something revolutionary about walking away in silence. No last word, no emotional outburst, just a calm, firm goodbye. It's not about ego, it's about evolution, and the person who can master that kind of exit has already won, because they chose peace over power struggles, growth over grudges, and grace over games. That is the beauty of a dignified exit, and it is the hallmark of true emotional intelligence. Kindness is often misunderstood. In many situations, it's seen as softness, passivity, or even weakness. But in truth, kindness is a deliberate and powerful act of strength. It requires emotional maturity, self-discipline, and empathy. Being kind to everyone, especially to those who may have hurt or misunderstood you, does not mean you are naive or incapable of standing up for yourself. Instead, it means that your actions are rooted in character, not in reaction. When you walk away from someone or something that no longer serves you, doing so with kindness allows you to preserve your integrity, protect your peace, and grow without bitterness. Kindness begins with understanding. It means recognizing that every person is dealing with their own struggles, insecurities, and wounds, even those who treat you unfairly. When you understand this, you stop internalizing others' poor behavior as a reflection of your worth. Instead, you recognize that how others act is a reflection of their inner world, not your value. This perspective doesn't excuse mistreatment, but it frees you from taking it personally. It allows you to respond not with vengeance or resentment, but with calm and compassion. And that is a sign of strength, not weakness. When you walk away with kindness, you are not doing it for the other person. You are doing it for yourself. You are choosing not to carry the emotional weight of anger, grudges, or revenge. Holding on to negative emotions can be exhausting and toxic. It can cloud your judgment and steal your joy. But when you choose kindness, you release those burdens. You create space for healing, growth, and emotional clarity. You allow yourself to move forward unchained by the past, and that choice, again, is not always easy. It takes effort, it takes self-awareness, it takes maturity, but it is worth it. Being kind to everyone, even to those who have disappointed or disrespected you, does not mean you allow them back into your life. Kindness doesn't mean access. You can wish someone well from a distance. You can forgive without reconnecting. Boundaries and kindness are not opposites. They can and should coexist. In fact, the healthiest relationships and decisions are those rooted in both compassion and clarity. When you express kindness through honest communication and firm boundaries, you model emotional intelligence. You show others that kindness is not about being a doormat. It's about being deliberate, respectful, and true to yourself. Another reason kindness is so essential is because of the example it sets. Whether you realize it or not, your behavior influences those around you. When others see you choosing kindness in difficult situations, it can be inspiring. It teaches them that grace is not just for easy moments. It is for the hard ones too. It shows that you can be strong without being harsh, assertive without being aggressive, and honest without being cruel. These are life skills that ripple outward, affecting families, friendships, workplaces, and communities. Kindness is contagious, and your choice to practice it can have a much greater impact than you might ever know. In romantic relationships especially, it is tempting to respond to pain with bitterness. You may feel used, unappreciated, or betrayed. In those moments, the easy response is to lash out, to match their energy, or to let your anger speak louder than your wisdom. But when you respond with kindness, even as you walk away, you show that your actions are not dictated by someone else's behavior. You rise above the chaos. You prove that you were genuine all along, and that you remain so even in the face of disappointment. That kind of consistency is rare. It speaks volumes about your character and self-respect. There is also a quiet confidence in kindness. It says, I do not need to hurt you to heal myself. It says, I choose peace because I value it, not because I am afraid of conflict. When you are kind, you are not avoiding the truth. You are expressing it with love. You are not denying your pain. You are simply refusing to spread it. This level of emotional responsibility is powerful. It transforms your pain into purpose and your hurt into healing. It helps you evolve, not harden. One of the most beautiful things about kindness is that it keeps you connected to your authentic self. No matter what someone has done to you, they don't get to decide who you become. You do, and when you remain kind, you stay true to your values. You don't let their actions change your essence. You walk away with grace, not because they deserve it, but because you do. You deserve to move on without bitterness. You deserve to hold your head high, knowing you acted with honor. You deserve to carry peace, not resentment. Kindness also builds emotional resilience. It trains your heart to stay open in a world that often encourages it to close. It teaches you to stay compassionate, even when you've been wounded. It reminds you that forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about freeing yourself, and that freedom allows you to grow, to rise, to love again, better and wiser. Ultimately, kindness is not about letting others off the hook. It's about refusing to lose yourself in the process of dealing with them. It is a choice that protects your energy, preserves your dignity, and reflects your strength. So, when you walk away, walk kindly. Let your silence be calm, your distance be respectful, and your memory be one of grace, because in the end, the way you leave says just as much about you as the way you love. Let it speak well of your heart.